My name is Dean Papavassiliou. That's a Greek name. I'm a Greek origin, and I was born in Greece. My father was traveling around, and I came to New York in '61 to study. I studied politics, economics, management, and all the other stuff, and psychology. And I became a port lecturer about 12 years ago. I've been in Panama Canal the first time. I was there in 1961 with a Greek ship when I was a young boy. And we were a very small ship, 6,000 tons only, but it was my first experience. But I've been doing now Panama Canal cruises for the Princess Cruises for the last 10 years. Well, the Spanish explorer Vasco Núñez de Balboa, he was the one who actually crossed the Panama Canal by foot with 1,000 Indians in 1513. And he's the one who viewed the Pacific side for the first time. But since the Panama Canal, the way it's built, is not really east to west as we're going now, it's northwest to southeast. So he called Panama the South Sea, because you went from the north to sea. So the Spanish were already interested to do a canal at that time in the beginning of 1700s, but they could not do it because, of course, the complications, they didn't have the capabilities. In the end, the French enter when Ferdinand de Lesseps, she was the first successful premier builder of canals in the Suez Canal between 1859 to 1869, he decided maybe he can get in money from the French people, from investors and banks, to build a canal on the Central America. So he came in the 1870s, late 1870s, and decided to first build a hotel there, and he got enough money, about the $70 million from French investors and banks, and thought to build a sea-level canal here in Panama. But Panama at that time, of course, was Colombia. So they received them in 1881. He already had about $71 million equivalent US dollars there from the French investors and banks, and he started the construction. He started working with about 50,000 workers at that time, and they were all from the Caribbean nations, Caribbean islands, and some all former African slaves who had already the malaria. That's how the malaria was introduced in that area. And malaria killed about 22,000 people on the first phase of the French between 1881 to 1888. But the project kind of failed because they could not do it due to the lack of proper equipment, delays in getting the equipment, money, and design flaws, and of course the diseases from the yellow fever. The size of the locks, and now we have 6 locks in Panama Canal, 3 on the Atlantic side, 3 on the Pacific side. They are 1,000 feet long and about 110 feet wide. All the water that is used for the operations of the canal is used by natural gravity because the lake is already 85 feet higher, and then the water comes naturally down there by gravity. They have huge pipes there, culverts, to bring the water by gravity down there on the bottom of the chamber of the lock, and it distributes through the lock through 100 different holes that are evenly deposited there during the bottom of the place. And the reason they have these 100 holes is that they don't want any turbulence on the ships when they're raising the ship up or down. The island princess is 105 feet wide and 965 feet long. So we only have 1.5 foot clearance between each side of the wall. And we have a little bit of room in the back because we always have a tugboat coming back from the back to help us. Every year we have an average about 14,000 ships pass the canal. We had about 1 million ships now. From the beginning of the canal in 1914 to the end of the last year, we had about 1 million ships totally cross. The cost of the ships, of the cruise ships like our ship, is per passenger or per berth. We actually pay for how many berths each ship has, the capacity of the berth. So we pay more money if the berth is occupied or unoccupied. We pay about $106 for occupied berth, $95 for empty berth. Since we have a capacity of 1850 or close to 2,000 people, so we pay about $350,000 to do the crossing. And this is now either for the full transit or for the going up to Gatun locks, 3 locks, and coming down 3 locks, we pay the same amount because we're still using the 6 locks. 52 million gallons of water is used every time a ship is coming back and forth on the locks to do the complete transit. The gates are, its average gate weighs about 750 tons. But I mean, they are hollow because they're empty on the bottom there too, and they move easily like floating in the water. But they're using the power, the horsepower, 40 horsepower little motors to use the gates open up from the control power in its set of locks. The U.S. decided to also build a canal there because they had reasons to build for commercial and strategic reasons. They needed very much to have a canal there so they can go to Asia faster than they will go through this south point of South America. So what they did, they were interested in the canal because in 1850 the U.S. already was doing the railroad on Panama. And the lawyer from that area was William Cromwell, was a Republican lobbyist and lawyer from New York. So he and the French engineer who was working for the Lesseps, Bruno Virella, they kind of tried to figure out how to get the U.S. involved in the Panama Canal because by 1890 the French failed into their project. They lost a lot of money already. The investors were after them in France because they cut, by 1888 they spent another $300 million. And they were bankrupt. They were bankrupt. They were trying to find someone to buy their equipment. The U.S. started digging the canal in 1903 and 1904. Once they started the work, the U.S. Corps of Army of Engineers, Corps of Army Engineers came there, and they did actually the digging to continue what the French had started, because they already changed the design from a sea level to do the lock system. And the lock system, of course, as you know, the ships now that they have to do the transit, they have to raise themselves through the canal process to 3 levels to 85 feet above sea level to travel through the Gatun Lake and then go to the another 3 locks to go on the other side of the Pacific to get out of there. There, in the Panama Canal Authority, there are 9,500 people working there. 310, they are the pilots who come there always on the ship when we are crossing the Panama Canal to kind of be in charge of the routing. We pay $350,000 now, let's say, for the Island Princess to do that. The Panama Canal operations giving 10% of the gross domestic product of the Panama budget every year. Well, when we come here, early in the morning, about 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, a pilot comes there, a pilot boat comes here to bring 3 pilots, because our size of ship needs about 3 pilots. One stays on the bridge and to go all around on the sides of the ship to check the line handlers. There are 24 people who are the ones who help attach the steel lines to the locomotives, to the 8 locomotives we have on our ship. Once the pilots come, then our people, the photographers and the videographers, go out early in the morning to position themselves so they can take photographs of all the cruise people there, all the passengers. To go through the canal, to go through the locks, we're using the electric locomotives. Now we're using Mitsubishi locomotives that cost about $2 million. And of course, we call them mules now because long time ago in canals, they used mules to move the ships around. These ones that they were using now, they're of course on a rail, so they always have in a fixed position. They tie it very, very close with steel mures to the ship, and they keep the ship always center. We have 4 locomotives, or mules as we call them now, on each side of the ship, and they are the ones who keep us on the center of the ship. But I mean, they never really pull us because we are working on our own propulsion, very slowly, 2-3 miles per hour. But the locomotives, they don't pull us. They only make sure that we're sitting on the center because they have very tight cables, steel cables attached to them. The reasons that they wanted, everybody wanted to have a canal, with the Europeans, of course, the Americans, now that they have the money already to do it, to save, of course, money from taking the ships already to 12,000 miles around the Cape Horn in South America to go to the other side. And we're saving about 8,000 miles this way. And of course, 60 days of more of sailing. So the saving of the time was there. It was strategic for the US to move both cargo and people, Navy ships, to Asia in case of any problems there, because they're always interested in the Philippines. The Philippines was on Asia and Japan. The new canal is large enough to accommodate the post-Panama ships, the larger container ships. The container ships that come now through the present canal, they can carry only 4,200 containers. The new canal will accommodate cargo ships or container ships to 12,000 containers each. So that will bring much more money because they charge them by container carry. Well, I'm sure that this trip going through the Panama Canal will be very exciting for the first time people who come there, or the passengers who come there for the first time. I was very excited to see when I came here many years ago too. And this is a major kind of cruise for anybody in the world to come. Every time any of our friends ask my wife, what's your favorite cruise? They always say the Panama Canal cruise. So I hope you enjoy the cruise thus far. You enjoy going through the locks of Panama Canal and see all the kind of interesting things that we have in Panama Canal. I hope the weather stays beautiful, like they almost promised. But usually the weather in Panama is hot and humid and tropical weather because we're in a tropical rainforest, but full of very, very nice, wonderful people. So enjoy your day in Panama and enjoy the rest of the cruise and the rest of the ports. Thank you very much again.